share my screen. Hi everyone. Hope you're all doing good. Welcome, welcome. Crazy, crazy hot week this week. I'm not going to make this too long this week because it is super hot. I'm going to keep this short, but I'm hoping impactful and really bloody helpful is what I'm hoping. We're talking about volume eating today. This might be something you guys have maybe heard rattling around the internet before. This also might be something you haven't heard of before. If you haven't, that's totally fine. I'm going to tell you what this is, and I'm also going to tell you why this is such a game changer for fat loss and something for you guys to really think about as you build your dream body and as you are on a weight loss journey, most importantly. So, just a couple of housekeeping bits first of all. Getting married on Friday. Our main wedding's August, but Friday we're actually doing like the legal paperwork because we're getting married at my parents' house, and that is not a legal place to get married, funnily enough. So we're doing all the paperwork on Friday. I've told you guys this obviously on the last call. I've also put it in the group chat, but just in case some of you guys might not have seen it yet, we're taking Friday completely off, just Friday. Check-in will just be a little bit different this week. I'm either going to reply to you and Adam. We're going to reply to you either Thursday, kind of afternoon, evening, or we're going to reply to you Saturday. So if you get to the end of Thursday and you're like, I haven't got a check-in reply, don't worry, I've not forgotten about you. We're just getting back to you on Saturday. We're just muddling some things around, but it will just be for this week. And obviously, massively appreciate you guys being patient with that. But we're going to take all of Friday off and just be super present and actually get legally married, which is crazy. We've been engaged for nearly 2 years, so it feels like it's come around really fast, but it's been a long engagement, so I'm super excited. And that's the only thing I want to talk about in terms of housekeeping this week. So just bear that in mind and just remember that this week. But let's dive into the call. What I want to talk to you about today is volume eating, what it is, what it means, and why you should be doing it if fat loss particularly is the goal for you, which for most of you guys here is the goal. It's about how to stay fuller, more satisfied after meals, and to, as a byproduct, make fat loss easier for you. I'm always trying to help you guys make this as seamless, as easy, as structured, and as foolproof as possible. And to teach you guys that you do not need to be starving hungry to lose weight. You don't actually have to do that. I know that, from diet culture over the years, I know that my generation had it. I know all the generations before me have had it as well. There's the notion when you're growing up, I think, that it's like, oh, if you want to lose weight, it's got to be blood, sweat, and tears the whole way through, and you've got to be starving hungry, and you've got to really starve yourself the whole way through. That's what we're conditioned and what we're taught to believe in a lot of cases, but it doesn't have to be the case. You don't have to be starving. And I'm going to show you today some really easy things that you can implement into your diet. That doesn't mean you're overhauling your whole diet, but just easy additions and easy things you can start thinking about to make you feel satisfied and just have as much food as physically possible. So let's dive in. First of all, this is why most diets fail. And I'm saying diet in kind of quotation marks because obviously here we try not to promote like being on a diet, as you guys know. What we're doing is, yes, you guys are in a calorie deficit, but what we're trying to teach you is how to use these tools about nutrition and not just use them for 6 weeks, but actually things that you can take forwards and use for life and make actual lifestyle change and sustainable change. But this is why most diets fail. They mostly fail because people are just constantly hungry all the time, restricting too hard, eating teeny tiny portions, and just fighting cravings constantly. Now, I don't want to sell the dream that if you do this, you're just never going to be hungry in a calorie deficit. I think there's a lot of things online at the moment that I see anyway, because I get spammed with fitness content all the time, the same as you guys. The algorithm pushes it out to me because I'm a fitness coach. I think people like to sell the idea that if you take your protein up and if you volume eat, you're never going to be hungry and it's going to be magical. I will never be dishonest with you guys. A little bit of hunger when you're losing weight is going to be normal. At the end of the day, you're in an energy deficit, you're in a calorie deficit, you are going to be eating slightly less than what you are burning. So a little bit of hunger is going to be there. But if your diet is constantly leaving you starving with intense cravings, it is incredibly hard to sustain long term and it does not have to be that severe. You guys might have tried things before joining us that have felt really unsustainable, that have felt like I could only stick to it for a couple of weeks and then I just binged and ate all the food I was craving. I would guarantee that probably most of you, myself included, have tried those things before. This is why they don't work. It's just way too restrictive. You're cutting things way too low and you're just fighting cravings all the time. You don't have to do that. And I'm going to show you how to make this easier for yourself. So let me break down what volume eating actually is before, because it might be a term that you guys might not have come across before. It basically means eating larger amounts of food for fewer calories. The goal with volume eating is to feel fuller, as full as possible, reduce your hunger as much as possible, stay satisfied as much as possible between meals, and make fat loss easier, which is a win-win, right? We want to not feel too hungry and we want this process to be as easy as possible. This is one of the best tools for long-term consistency. Volume eating works really well because it helps you to fill up physically, but also mentally. You get bigger meals, more fullness, less snacking, better appetite control. And it's instead of having these tiny little portions that leave you hungry 20 minutes later. And what I'm going to show you today is some easy things that you can change in your diet, some very small things that you can start to make changes on that help with this and and you don't have to have meals that are tiny, tiny, tiny that leave you feeling hungry all the time. There's a way around it. So these are the main foods that are used when we talk about volume eating. So volume eating is trying to get as big a portions as possible for as fewer calories as possible when you're trying to lose weight. Volume foods are usually foods that are very high in fiber, high water content, lower calorie, and as a byproduct, they are filling. These are some examples. This is not an exhaustive list. These are not the only volume foods, but these are lots of them that are really easily accessible that are great. Vegetables, fruit, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and normal potatoes. Lean protein sources, so chicken, turkey, lean beef, white fish, Greek yogurt. For any vegans or vegetarians here, things like tofu, tempeh, seitan, beans, pulses, they're all counted as well. Low fat yogurt, popcorn, oats. These foods are going to help you eat more whilst staying within your calories. And that is what this call is all about. How do we eat as much as possible with as fewer calories as possible so that you can fill up and eat as much food as possible? Protein plus volume eating is an absolute game changer. This is the best combination for fat loss. We talk loads about protein. Protein is really important to help you stay full and help you stay satisfied. Out of all three of your macros, so your macros are carbs, protein, and fats. Out of all three, your protein is going to give you the most bang for your buck in terms of helping you to stay full. But sometimes, you might have noticed this before, if someone's only focusing on protein, they might still feel hungry. They might be like, oh, I've really taken my protein up, but I'm still hungry. That's because the volume eating more fiber, more lower calorie foods, like we just mentioned, that combined with the protein massively helps. It helps with your fullness, it helps with cravings, and it helps with muscle retention. Volume foods are going to help you with more portion size, more fiber, more appetite control. And together they make staying in a calorie deficit much easier. So protein and volume eating are like a marriage or a match made in heaven. They are just great to think about doing together. So that's why when I say we don't only want to focus on protein, this is what I mean, and this massively helps. This is what most people do instead. A lot of people are trying to lose fat, eating things very regularly, like just from it's like more calorie dense food. So pastry, crisps, chocolate, sugary snacks, all that sort of stuff. Now, one thing I want to make very clear here is I am not demonizing any of these foods. That's not how I roll, and I hope all of you guys know that by this point. There is no such thing as good food or bad food in my world, and hopefully not in your world either. I am not saying that pastries are bad or chocolate is bad. That would also be incredibly hypocritical of me because I love to eat chocolate. I have a massive sweet tooth. I have a bit of chocolate pretty much every day because I love it. I'm not saying that, but what you need to be careful of is just being aware that these kinds of foods are very easy to overeat. They are low volume. They are not filling, but they are very calorie dense. They don't have a lot of nutrients in them, so you can eat lots of it and still not feel satisfied. So it's very easy to eat over them. Now, I'm not telling you to not eat these things. Absolutely not. That is not how I roll. You can still include these in your diet, and I encourage you to include them in your diet in small amounts, but they shouldn't be the foundation of your diet. If you are making these sorts of things the foundation of your diet, fat loss is just going to be really difficult for you. And what we want to do is not restrict, not cut out our favorite things, but learn to just make smart choices with your food so that you are feeling as satisfied and as full as possible. And if your diet is primarily consisting of this sort of stuff, it's going to be hard for you to lose weight because you're going to be having tiny portions of it because it's really calorie dense. You're not going to feel satisfied after meals. And like I said, there's no such thing as good food or bad food. There is space for it. And what I want you guys to always really think of is the 80-20 rule. So 80% of your week, I want you to think of including meals that are high protein, high fiber, lots of volume foods in that, balanced with some carbs and some fats, trying to get nutritionally dense whole foods with lots of protein, lots of volume, lots of fiber, as much as you can. 80% of your week. But 20% of your week, make sure you are including the stuff that you really love. For me, that would be making sure that I include some chocolate and some pastries because they are my favorite things in the world. 20% of your week, make sure you're adding that stuff in. This is going to really help you to not feel like you're really restricting or only eating salad leaves. Because if you're doing that, you're not going to want to sustain it long term. Make sure you're including it, but just don't make it the absolute foundation of your diet. Fruit and veg are your best friend. I am not going to tell you guys why fruit and veg is good for you. I'm very aware that all of you guys know that, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna patronize you guys in that way by saying, guys, fruit and veg is good for you, you should be eating it. We know this, right? We know this. But a lot of people do massively undereat, especially when trying to lose weight. Fruit and veg is going to be your best friend when you're trying to lose weight because it really helps with fullness, tons of fiber, really helps with your digestion and your gut health, which is awesome. There's lots of studies to suggest that the more healthy our gut microbiome is, the easier fat loss is as well, which is absolutely mental. I think that's fascinating. That's also something to think about. You get bigger meal volume because fruit and veg typically tends to be low calorie. You can have lots more of it and fill it up on your plate, and it also helps to regulate your appetite. Easy additions. Like I said, I don't want you guys to come away from this call thinking, oh God, I've got to overhaul my entire diet. You absolutely don't. But here's some easy things that you can start to think about adding in more consciously. If you're having yogurt in the morning or oats in the morning, put some berries on it or put some fruit on it, whatever you like. Start to, if you're having things like wraps or sandwiches or things like that, start to put some salad leaves in there. If you're having dinner, just get some frozen veg and throw it in. I know that sometimes like fresh fruit and veg can be quite expensive. Getting frozen stuff is an absolute game changer. Like I don't really buy fresh berries very often. Sorry, because they are really spenny. Adam and I just get frozen ones. They're a lot cheaper. They often do deals. Like we go to Sainsbury's and they do like 3 for 2 on frozen bags of berries. We get them and just leave them in the freezer. They never go off and they're much cheaper. Same with veg. Get some frozen stuff. Keep it in the freezer so you don't have to worry about it going off or it being too expensive. Start to add that into your dinners. It will take you a couple of minutes to prep it. Fruit with your snacks. Like if you're having a protein shake, for example, put an apple with it or put a few strawberries with it. Something like that. Just really easy things. It's about looking at your diet now and thinking, okay, this is what I'm eating at the moment. Rather than overhauling everything overnight, what are some easy additions I can add in? This is a really, really good place to start. Potatoes are not the enemy. Big misconception about potatoes. I think potatoes get a bad rep. Misconception that they are, because they're carbs, because they're very starchy, very carby. Misconception that you can't have them when you're trying to lose weight because they make you fat. They absolutely don't. At the end of the day, the only thing that makes you gain or lose weight is the amount of food that you're eating. But potatoes are actually, I think, a bit of a superfood when it comes to fat loss. They are quite low calorie, especially white potatoes, really filling because they're very starchy and you can have quite a lot of them. And they are amazing for fat loss. So I would always recommend get some potatoes in your diet. They're really great carbs, they're good for you. And you can have them boiled, you can have them baked, you can have them air fried, so you don't have to use too much oil. The issue is normally frying them in oil and all the toppings rather than the actual potato itself. So one thing I want to point out is start getting some potatoes in your diet regularly. It really helps when you're trying to lose weight. Now, what I want you to think about, and the biggest thing I want you to take away from this call is starting to think of building bigger meals and not shrinking yours and not making smaller ones. This is one of the biggest mistakes. People start to think, oh, because I'm trying to lose weight, they go back into old habits and they think of having tiny, tiny portions and trying to eat kind of like tiny diet meals. I actually want you to think about how you can now start to add more volume, bigger portions. Instead, think of how can I make this bigger with little calories as possible? Adding lots of vegetables, adding loads of salad, like salad leaves and things like spinach. You don't even have to track these guys. Like a spinach leaf has basically next to no calories in it, and neither do salad leaves. I personally, when I'm trying to diet and I'm in a deficit, I don't really weigh out my lettuce leaves. I don't really weigh out my salad leaves. Everything else I track. You don't even have to track this stuff. You don't have to track your salad leaves and that stuff. So add veg, add salad, add all these volume foods that we've talked about, like oats, berries, lots of things like that. Prioritize protein with your food as well. Big, satisfying meals and having them as big as possible and as satisfying as possible is what is going to help you improve consistency. Volume eating is going to automatically really help you with emotional eating as well. I speak to you guys, or a lot of you guys, about emotional eating quite regularly. It's a lot more of a common thing than you think. And if you're somebody that's been trying to lose weight for a while, or you've maybe struggled with losing weight for a while, it would be uncommon if emotional eating wasn't there to an extent. Food is the epicenter of our universe. It's the thing that keeps us alive. It's always the thing that often revolves around for us socially as well. Emotional eating is more common than you think. And I know that I talked to a lot of you guys about this in the program, but volume eating is going to automatically help you with emotional eating as well. I'm not going to tell you that eating more veg and eating more salad and more berries and, having more protein is going to fix all of your problems or all of your relationship with food. It's not going to magically fix it overnight, but a lot of the time, lots of people are just constantly kind of underfed. And when you're underfed, cravings increase. Eating in the evening or late night cravings increase. Emotional eating gets worse. You would be surprised at how much more fuel and filling yourself with more nutrient dense whole foods throughout the day is actually going to help you reduce this massively. Like I said, it's not going to magically make it go away overnight, but even just more fuel and focusing on volume eating and more protein helps you with your emotional eating and really helps you automatically because you're just not going to be feeling quite so hungry in between meals and you're going to feel more satisfied. So that's some food for thought there. Here's what a volume eating meal can actually look like. These are just a couple of examples. So, what you can do is pick your protein first. As I always say to you guys, start thinking, what's my protein source when you're building out your meal? So, you can have chicken or you can have tofu, whatever diet you follow. Then from there, add in some carbs, potatoes, amazing, lovely high volume food, or some rice, huge portion of veg or salad, and then add some sauce or add some seasoning. It really can be as simple as that. That is such a basic meal. You don't have to do things that basic, but if you're someone that doesn't enjoy cooking like me, it really can be that simple. And I often have recipes like this quite often. Like last night, I cooked seitan, which is great plant-based protein, by the way. Seitan, I just buy those like Maggi seasoning packs that you can literally put in a bag and then shove in the oven. I put that in with loads of veg. I did like peppers, I did onions, I did mushrooms, loads of stuff. Whack that in the oven. Then I just did it with some potatoes and then I just did it with the seasoning on top and a little bit of sauce on the side. Super, super simple. It took me like 20 minutes to prep. I pretty much just whacked it in the oven and then I put the potatoes in the air fryer. It really can be that simple. And then you can just add some salad leaves to that afterwards. Bish bash bosh, that's a really great high protein, high volume meal. It creates high volume, fullness, controlled calories. Simple works best. Cannot stress this enough with your nutrition, guys. You do not have to be eating chicken, broccoli, and rice every day, but having a couple of recipes that are high protein, lots of volume, that you love, that you can just rotate through when you're losing weight is going to make things so much easier for you. And this is as simple as it can be. You can still enjoy your favorite foods as well. Something I really want you guys to remember. Volume eating is not about cutting out food forever. It is about building most meals around filling foods and trying to make as smart a choice as possible, leaving room for your treats intentionally, saving, maybe 100, 150, 200 calories a day so that you can have something that you really love, like a bit of ice cream or a bit of chocolate or something like that. It's about intentionally setting space and leaving space for the favorite stuff. The rest of your calories that you have, make it nutrient dense, high protein, lots of volume. That is how it is sustainable. That is how you not only lose weight, get an incredible transformation, but don't feel like you are sacrificing your entire life or eating in a way that you hate. The goal is easier fat loss. Like I said at the start, my job is to try and make this as simple and as easy for you guys as possible and give you as much education as possible so you can take these skills for life. So, volume eating is going to help you stay fuller. It's going to help you reduce cravings, stay more consistent, enjoy bigger meals, which is just great. Like, what a win. And avoid feeling deprived or like you're missing out. This is why it works so well. What I want you guys to do now is to just ask yourself a couple of questions. So, start to think about what you've eaten this week. What meals have left me feeling really hungry quite quickly? Spoiler alert, I could probably tell you that the meals that have left you feeling not satisfied are the ones that have had very low protein and not a lot of volume added in, not a lot of fiber, not a lot of fruit and veg, and all that sort of stuff added in. Where could I start to add more protein, fruit, or veg? Start to look at your meals and think, oh, okay, well, my breakfast at the moment, I'm getting like 10 grams of protein in. Start there. Start at your breakfast and think, right, I'm going to up the protein. Then I'm going to add in either lots of veg or I'm going to add in some fruit, whatever it might be. What low volume foods am I overeating regularly? So if you start to think, oh, actually, I'm having a lot of the lattes from Starbucks, for example, that have loads of syrup in them and loads of milk that are like 300 calories. That's an example of a low volume food. Again, not cutting it out completely, just if you're having it every day and you're feeling hungry after your meals and you're not feeling too satisfied in your deficit, that's the first thing to address and think, okay, rather than having that every day, maybe I'll start to have that once or twice a week and I'll start to pull back on that a bit. Or maybe it's, oh, I very frequently have like crisps or chocolate or something. It's just about scaling it back. And like I said earlier, not making that the foundation of your diet because we want to make this as easy and as foolproof for you as possible. Having that awareness is what creates the change. So start to ask yourself these questions and start to take a look at your diet a bit closer. Final thing I want you guys to know. You do not need to survive on tiny portions to lose fat. Regardless of what the diet industry has told you for years and years and years, you do not have to do it, and it does not have to be as hard as that. The goal is not to eat as little as possible. The goal is to stay full as possible, stay satisfied, and stay consistent. And volume eating is going to help you do that. That is everything for the call this week. I really hope this has been useful for you guys. If you have any questions, you know where I am. As always, drop me a message, whether it's in the group or one-to-one. Drop me a message and ask me some questions. But what I'd love you to do, for those of you that are here live, I'd love you to then go into your group chat after this and just put hashtag mindset and just share your biggest takeaway, the biggest thing you've learned, or maybe the biggest game changer for you from this call. I'd love to hear your thoughts and love to get your feedback on this. But that is everything, team. I'll be uploading this tomorrow for all of you guys that are listening back on YouTube. If you also have questions, you know where I am, just let me know. But have a lovely evening, guys. I'm going to let you go and enjoy the last little bit of the sun. I'm going to go out and do the same. Have a good one, team. It's been really good to have so many of you here. Cool, nice one, guys. See you later.